Think back to the first paycheck you ever earned. It was probably small, embarrassingly small, and yet somehow you survived on it. You paid for what you needed, you even had fun. Life worked. Now look at what you earn today. It might be double that first paycheck, maybe triple, maybe more. So here's the question that should keep you up at night. If you can earn so much more now, why doesn't it feel like more? Why does the money still vanish by the end of the month? Why does the pressure feel exactly the same as it did back then? The answer is a mechanism, a quiet, one-directional mechanism built into your brain and your wallet. Economists have a name for it, the Ratchet effect. A ratchet is a simple tool. It's a gear that turns freely in one direction and locks in the other. Forward is easy, backward is impossible. Your spending works exactly like that gear. When your income goes up, your spending clicks forward. A nicer apartment, a better car, restaurants instead of home clicking. Each click feels natural, deserved, small. But here's the trap. When your income drops, or when you try to cut back, the gear doesn't turn backward. It locks. Every upgrade you made has become your new baseline, your new normal, your new minimum. You didn't just spend more money, you redefined what necessary means. This isn't a character flaw. It's not weakness. It's one of the most documented patterns in economics, and it was mapped decades ago by a man most people have never heard of. In 1949, an economist at Harvard named James Dusenberry published a theory that quietly contradicted everything his colleagues believed. The standard model said people spend based on their current income. Earn more, spend more. Earn less, spend less. Simple, symmetric, rational. Dusenberry looked at actual household data and saw something different, something stranger. When incomes rose, spending rose right along with them. But when incomes fell, spending barely moved. Families would drain their savings, take on debt, do almost anything to protect the lifestyle they had reached. They would sacrifice their future to avoid stepping backward in the present. He called it the Ratchet effect. Consumption clicks upward with ease and resists coming down with everything it has. Why? Why would your brain fight so hard against spending less? Because you don't experience your lifestyle as a number. You experience it as an identity. Going from cooking at home to eating out feels like progress. Going from eating out back to cooking at home feels like failure, even though it's the exact same kitchen, the exact same meal, the exact same you. The move up and the move down are not emotional equals, and there's a reason for that, buried deep in how your brain processes gain and loss. The psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky proved something in the 1970s that changed economics forever. Losses hurt roughly twice as much as equivalent gains feel good. Losing $100 stings about twice as hard as finding $100 delights. They called it loss aversion. Now, apply that to your lifestyle. Every upgrade you've made, your brain has already absorbed into your baseline. It no longer feels like a bonus. It just feels like your life. So cutting it doesn't register as returning to normal. It registers as a loss. And your brain will fight a loss twice as hard as it ever celebrated the gain. That's the lock on the ratchet. It's not made of steel. It's made of loss aversion. But there's a second mechanism hiding underneath, and it's even more invisible. It's called hedonic adaptation. In plain English, you get used to things. In 1978, the psychologist Philip Brickman ran one of the most famous studies in the history of happiness research. His team interviewed lottery winners, people who had recently won life-changing amounts of money, and compared them to a control group of ordinary people. The expectation was obvious. The winners should be dramatically happier. They weren't. Within months, the lottery winners had returned to almost exactly their previous level of happiness. The mansion became a house, the luxury car became a car, the dream became a Tuesday. Even stranger, the winners reported enjoying everyday pleasures less than ordinary people did. The big win had raised their baseline so high that normal life felt dull by comparison. Read that again. Getting everything they wanted made ordinary things feel worse. This is what every upgrade does to you in miniature. The first month in the nicer apartment feels incredible. By month 3, it's just where you live. The joy evaporates. But the rent doesn't. The pleasure is temporary. The payment is permanent. That is the cruelest math in personal finance. You trade a permanent expense for a temporary feeling. And then, because of the ratchet, you can never trade it back. So what happens when you stack years of these clicks on top of each other? You get a very specific kind of person. Someone who earns 2 or 3 times what they once did, who by every objective measure has succeeded, and who feels exactly as broke and exactly as trapped as they did at the beginning. Sound familiar? The raise came, the promotion came, the income doubled, and the anxiety stayed identical because the spending ratcheted up click by click to consume every new dollar the moment it arrived. Economists sometimes call this the hedonic treadmill. You run faster and faster and the scenery never changes. But the treadmill image misses something important. A treadmill you can step off. A ratchet holds you in place. Because here's what the ratchet really takes from you. It's not the money, it's the options. Every click upward is a commitment. The bigger apartment is a lease. The nicer car is a alone. The lifestyle is a set of subscriptions, memberships, expectations, and habits that all demand to be fed every single month. Your monthly minimum, the amount you must earn just to keep your life running, quietly rises year after year. And as it rises, your freedom shrinks in perfect proportion. The job you hate, you can't leave it because the Ratchet needs feeding. The risk you wanted to take, you can't afford it because the Ratchet needs feeding. The year off, the career change, the business idea, the move to another city, the Ratchet needs feeding. Thorstein Veblen, an economist writing all the way back in 1899, saw the social side of this machine. He watched wealthy Americans compete through what he called conspicuous consumption, spending money specifically so others could see it. The purpose of the spending wasn't the thing itself, it was the signal. More than a century later, the signal has only gotten louder. Every feed you scroll is a parade of other people's upgrades, their kitchens, their vacations, their cars. Each image quietly recalibrates what normal looks like to your brain. You're not just ratcheting against your own past anymore. You're ratcheting against everyone else's highlight reel. So, is there a way out? Can the gear ever turn backward? Here's the honest answer. Turning it backward is brutally hard. Loss aversion makes sure of that. But there's something much easier than reversing the ratchet. Stopping the next click. Think about it. The pain of the ratchet doesn't come from the lifestyle you have. It comes from the automatic, unexamined upgrades you haven't made yet. The clicks that are coming. The raise that will disappear into a nicer car. The bonus that will vanish into a bigger place. Those clicks haven't happened, which means they cost you nothing to prevent. This is why the single most powerful moment in your financial life is not when you're broke. It's the moment your income rises. That exact moment. Because for a brief window, you have new money that hasn't been claimed by any habit, any lease, any expectation. In that window, the money is free, and you get to decide where it locks in. The people who escape the ratchet all do some version of the same thing. When income rises, they let their lifestyle rise a little, and they let it lag a lot. The gap between what they earn and what they've locked in, that growing space, is where every option in their life comes from. The emergency fund that lets them leave a bad job, the investments that compound while they sleep, the calm that comes from a monthly minimum that stays small while the income above it grows. They're not depriving themselves. They live well. They just refuse to let every raise instantly convert into a new obligation. They keep the gear from clicking. And here's the strange part. The research on adaptation cuts both ways. If you adapt to every upgrade in a few months, meaning the pleasure fades no matter what, then the upgrade was never going to make you lacingly happier anyway. You were going to feel normal again regardless. So the real choice was never between happiness and sacrifice. It was between a temporary feeling with a permanent cost and a permanent freedom with a temporary itch. The itch fades. That's what adaptation means. You adapt to not upgrading just as fast as you adapt to upgrading. Within months, the smaller apartment, the older car, the simpler routine, they all just become your life. Normal, invisible, fine. Except now, the gap is working for you, quietly, every month, building the one thing the ratchet was stealing all along: choices. So think back one more time to that first small paycheck, the one you somehow survived on, the one that paid for what you needed and even left room for fun. You thought you were poor back then, but look closer. Your minimum was tiny, your obligations were few, almost every path was still open, because almost nothing was locked in. That version of you, the one you've been pitying all these years, was holding something you've been clicking away ever since. The question was never how you'd feel when you finally earned more. The question is what you'll do at the very next click.